So many entrepreneurs that I know started to go down the road of entrepreneurship because they wanted freedom and autonomy and they wanted to be their own boss and they wanted to be able to make the decisions and guide their life in the direction that they wanted. And so many of them that I talk to have found that they're not really running their business. The business is kind of running them.
You didn't become an entrepreneur to feel stuck, overwhelmed, or like everything depends on you. But if that's where you are, you're in the right place. I'm McKay, and this is Get Shifted, the podcast that changes how entrepreneurs like you think, decide, and act so you can build a business and life that you actually love.
They wake up, they hit the desk, they start going through their emails. It feels like they're just constantly on this, reacting to things, trying to get everything done. They get to the end of their appointment day and there's still so much left to do. They are often burnt out and overwhelmed and disconnected from the passion and the thing that really pulled them into entrepreneurship in the first place. I like to call this living by default or running your business just on autopilot. That idea that you built something, which is amazing, congratulations, and yet it doesn't really feel like it works for you anymore. And it may be that the person that you were when you started this journey, when you started your business, you've evolved since then. Things that you maybe didn't have in your life that you care more about now. Maybe you want to be spending more time with family. Maybe you have more obligations or hobbies or life that you want to live, and you don't have the same capacity to invest in your business. And I get it. I get it. A lot of times, that feeling of just running by default is just easier and more comfortable, and changing things up is just way too complicated and way too hard. I want to let you know that being in that default mode, this isn't lazy. This isn't just coasting. In fact, you might be working way harder than you actually even need to. For many of the people that I work with, this sort of drift from intentionality into the grind and the hamster wheel doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually. And it usually happens because the goals that we've set or the vision that we've set, we haven't reviewed it. We haven't looked again to see, is the business that we're running really the right business for us? If you're not sure whether or not you're running your business by default, here are some symptoms that you might recognize. Your schedule is filled up with other people's priorities, meaning there's other people's meetings, there's deadlines for client work that maybe you didn't really set that were set for you. You might not have very good boundaries around your time. And so you're often interrupted, or you'll start a project and then you'll get an email. And then you just kind of are running in this reaction mode the whole time. So, what's the alternative? The alternative is to take some time to really review and reflect and recommit to what matters in your business, to start looking at, how can I intentionally design my business, my life, my day, my schedule, my environment to better serve me, to feel more connected to my passions, to feel more connected to my bigger vision and my goal. Design is not about having everything figured out in advance. It really is about deliberate choice. It is about having a framework for your life and for your business that you can kind of push up against, or to check your choices against, so that you can make clear, confident decisions about where you're going to invest your time and energy. Design doesn't happen all at once. It typically happens in iterations. What you think you might want, what your vision and your fantasy might be, might require some field testing. You might want to try on a version of you and go out in the world and practice an introduction. This is part of prototyping, of looking to see, is this thing that I'm building the thing that I actually really want to work and live in? For a lot of my career as an entrepreneur, I've called myself a serial entrepreneur, which means that while I still keep the essence of entrepreneurship, every few years, maybe 5 or 10 years, I look at the business and life that I've built and I look to see if I'm operating by default or if I am still operating with intentionality and by design. In fact, this is version 5.6 that I'm currently on in terms of iterating what does my entrepreneurial life look like. And being in this next iteration, I'm here to tell you that creating with intention can sometimes be scary. The scariest part about it is believing that what you're creating is even possible. In fact, that kind of speaks to the three core beliefs that I think are important for any kind of successful venture, whether it's life or business. And the first core belief of those is it even possible? This idea of, is the business that I want, is it even possible? Is the life that I want even a possibility? And then, is it possible for you? Do you believe that while it might be possible for other people, that you and your specific circumstances would stop you from having that life or business that you desire? And then, thirdly, and this is the one that usually takes me out, is, do you believe that it's worth it? So many times in the past, when I've been thinking about making a big change, going after a new market, creating a new offer, maybe even changing my business altogether, the fear of, oh my goodness, there's going to be so many things to do. Oh my goodness, there's going to be so much hard work. Sometimes that belief that it's not going to be worth it is the thing that takes me out. And specifically, there's a lot of ease. There's a lot of comfort in just operating by default. Operating by default means you're doing things that are familiar for you. You might even be doing things out of habit without having to dedicate any energy to even deciding to do them. When we make change, change requires that we pay attention, that we choose intentionally, that we take new actions, that we create discomfort because it is new to us. And sometimes the belief is that it's not worth it. So, where do you even start then? Do you start with the beliefs? Do you start with the plan? Do you start with the reflection? Where you start is with the beliefs. Here is a micro action, a 2-minute action that you can take to get you started towards living your life by design instead of by default. Write down one area where you feel like you might have been running on default instead of by design. That's it. Write it down, one area, write it down and name it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything. We're just recognizing, here's the opportunity for growth.